Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Master RKO, and today we're bringing in a little bit of a newer series. That is, if you guys want it to be a series. If you guys like this, then we'll definitely continue doing it. But as you guys are probably wondering what the title means, what's the difference? Aegis versus Aegis. Last night I thought of an idea, and the idea came up through an argument that me and some people have had in the middle of a game, and it just kind of sparked an idea of, what is the difference? Why get one or the other of a certain item? So basically what this is going to be is every item has their own tier tree of buying stuff. As you can see, we'll use this as an example. Achilles' Spear has that, but there's also Greater Sprint and Heavenly Agility all in the same tier. And because certain items are in certain places, sometimes it's better to get one or the other, and sometimes it's better to get both. But with certain builds, sometimes just one or the other is better just to get. So like here, like some people might prefer Sprint, some people might prefer Agility, some people might prefer Achilles' Spear. You never know. So the first item that we're actually going to look at is going to be an item that actually was argued over almost the last time that I played Smite, and there's been I've heard a couple arguments over it, and that's actually going to be Aegis, the active. Now, there's two different types of Aegis. There's Greater Aegis, and there's Aegis Pendant. Both cost 900 gold. Both cooldowns are the same, but what makes them different, and why should you get one or the other? Now, the argument was basically that one person stated that Aegis Pendant was better for its reasons, and the other person immediately was like, no, Greater Aegis is better, and they kind of went at it for a little bit, and it got me thinking, which one actually is better by opinion? And of course, this is all my opinion, obviously. If you guys have your own opinions about this after the video, please leave it in the comments. I'd like to hear your guys's opinions on this, as well as some other items, because there's one more item that I want to do before I start asking for other stuff. But it got me thinking, what is the difference? So we're actually going to take a look at that. Basically what we're going to do is read some of the descriptions and go through and think of scenarios, and eventually calling which one we think's better or worse, or if they're both easily compatible. So the first one's going to be Greater Aegis. Now, the description states that when using this item, it makes you invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. Completely invulnerable, you take no damage for 2 seconds. But you cannot take any action, that means any movement, so no attacking, nothing. After the invulnerability fades, you then gain 20% damage reduction for 4 seconds, and it's on a 120-second cooldown. So basically, what happens is you pop it, you stand still for 2 seconds. After those 2 seconds of taking no damage, you then have a 20% damage reduction for another 4 seconds, basically while you make your escape. So if you're kind of thinking of things that are kind of like it, think of Zhonya's from League of Legends, where you have that quick shiny moment and then you get away kind of thing. That's pretty much what Aegis is in Smite, Greater Aegis is in Smite. Now, I could see how this could be useful, but let's go ahead and go into Aegis Pendant before we move on. Now, this item makes you invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds, just like the other one. So both of them, you still are invulnerable for 2 seconds. But it prevents you from attacking, but you are still allowed to move. And its cooldown is 120 seconds. So even though you don't take damage, you can still move, you just can't attack. But you don't get the extra 20% damage reduction for 4 seconds. So, and I honestly think that this is very God-based, but personal use aside, I think that, oh man, that one's a tough one. Because, okay, so we'll go pros and cons. For Greater Aegis, pro, you get the you get the 20% damage reduction, which could be huge after you're done with your invulnerability. Pro for Aegis, though, is that you can continue moving while you're invulnerable. So while you're invulnerable for that 2 seconds, you can then plan your escape. But with greater Aegis, you get that extra 4%, but you don't move, so you're in the same spot. So even though greater Aegis keeps you in the same, it gives you that extra damage buff, I'm trying to think of situations where you would use Aegis, and most of the time, Aegis is going to be used when a huge ultimate is hit, and most of the time it's going to be when you are very low on health. So, unless it's like a Poseidon Kraken, then you just use it anyway. So, when it comes down to it, I think that Aegis Pendant might be a little bit more useful because you can still move. So, you can still get to a tower. You can still get to your teammates. You can still move around for those 2 seconds. With Aegis Pendant, you're standing still for those 2 seconds. So while your teammates are leaving you, while they're under the tower safe, even though you're getting that damage reduction buff, as soon as you come out of that 2 seconds, you're going to be swarmed by every single person. And you're just going to sit there and you're pretty much dead unless your teammates can stop them. So, I mean, I guess in this situation, it just depends on the situation. If you're the type of player, or if your team's doing really well, I would definitely say this would be your second active. This is not a first active. This is definitely a second active kind of item, because you're not going to buy it first like a beads or something. This is going to be more situational. So when it comes to getting, if your team's kind of ahead, but you still want to stay ahead, I guess greater Aegis would be kind of better for you. Mainly because even after you're done being invulnerable, you can then whip around, use your damage reduction buff to then continue engaging and possibly get a couple kills. Whereas Aegis Pendant is, let's say you're just trying to stay alive and your team may be a little bit behind, then that's something you can do to plan your escape through those 2 seconds and you can get away. So I definitely think this is a second active item. It's not something that you're going to build your first active off of, mainly because the situation can change. Because if you're in the point to where you build it, let's say you build Aegis, greater Aegis first, then you're at the point where, let's say you're a movable target yet, and you're faster than others, but you get greater Aegis, so now when you're Aegising, you're still squishy, and now you're not moving anywhere, so now you're just sitting there waiting to die, and vice versa for Aegis Pendant. So this is definitely a second active that you would get, but I think that they're pretty much even. I wouldn't really say that one's better than the other. I think it's more situational. So for this version of what's the difference, I'm definitely going to say it's a split down the middle. Neither one's really better than the other. They both have the same cooldown, so that's not really a thing. It's just situational and the kind of player you are. It's not kind of like a one thing versus the other is going to be completely better. So I'm definitely going to say this is going to be split right down the middle, because I can't really think of any major difference that would really split them, you know? So I definitely think that that's going to be it. I'm just trying to think of if there is, because there could possibly still be there still could be a difference, but not completely, but definitely something to think about later. So it's definitely going to be right down the middle. So we're going to call this split right down the middle. Now, for those of you who are watching live, stay tuned, because I'm going to be recording one more of these. I'm doing these back to back. I'm going to be talking about one more thing. So for this decision, we're calling this right down the middle. Aegis is, one is not better than the other. So for those of you watching on YouTube, Click the like button below if you want to see more of these, or if there's an item that you want to see, leave it in the comments below, or leave your comments about Aegis. And as always, I'm Master Archaeo. For those of you who are here, stay tuned. We're going to be going for one more item. I'll see you guys next time. Adios.